This is the BBC.
This is InTouch, the magazine programme for people like me who are blind or partially sighted. I'm Peter White. Thanks for downloading this week's edition. Good evening. Tonight, the row that won't go away. Why, when it comes to shared spaces, blind and partially sighted Scots want to copy the English. And do I look all right in this? Ways of making sure that your outfit matches your aspirations. But first, a couple of months ago, the Department for Transport announced that it was urging local authorities to freeze shared space projects which were in the planning stage. Now, these are schemes which relax the rules around traffic management, replacing crossings controlled by lights with the right for pedestrians to cross anywhere, lowering or removing curbs, and allowing both cars and cyclists to share the space with pedestrians. The idea is to put more of the responsibility onto people to drive, walk and cycle considerately, and such shared spaces have become increasingly numerous. But right from the start, visually impaired people's organisations have opposed them vigorously, describing them as dangerous and frightening, and this announcement of a moratorium was hailed as a major breakthrough. But it didn't extend to Scotland, and there the row goes on. The National Federation of Blind People in Scotland is calling on the Scottish Government to copy England and call a halt to shared space projects. Sandy Taylor is leading the campaign on behalf of the Federation, and he took our reporter Tom Walker to the scheme in his hometown, which has upset visually impaired residents.
Well, here we are in the centre of Kirkintilloch, at the junction, the infamous junction at Catherine Street. To my right is Catherine Street, to my left is Kerr Street, and we've got Cowgate running north to south. So these are courtesy crossings, where we are supposed to make eye contact with drivers to say, I want to cross the road. Now, you will realise that for a blind person like myself, that's not possible. Therefore, we can't access our town centre at all, because we're not prepared to play Russian roulette just simply stepping out in front of vehicles. That could be silent vehicles, electric cars, cyclists. We're not prepared to do that, so it is a no-go area for us. It is a very busy junction, very busy indeed, and nobody has right of way. So there have been there are daily altercations here between drivers and also between drivers and pedestrians.
When you're walking along the road in this shared space area, what are the specific problems you come across?
Well, as you know, I've got a white cane here. I normally follow the building line, and you'll see further down the street there are many obstacles, tables and chairs outside cafes, etc. So normally in a situation like that, I would go to the outer edge of the pavement and follow the outer edge of the kerb. Unfortunately, there is no detectable kerbs in this town.
No curbs at all?
There are 20mm upstands, but that's very seldom detectable by a cane. And also guide dogs rely on kerbs. They are trained to stop at kerbs. Now, they are totally confused by this shared space system.
Who's a good boy? Good lad.
This is Margaret Hutchison with her guide dog Bob. When Margaret goes out, Bob goes with her. However, these days, they don't go to the shared space scheme in Kirkintilloch.
It's too difficult for me. I used to walk absolutely everywhere. Now I find I'm having to take taxis from A to B because I don't feel safe at these courtesy crossings. And my guide dog trainer has told me, do not cross there. It is not safe. She says even as a fully sighted person, it is not safe, that you can't see traffic coming up the hill or coming down the hill.
Oh, I love the smell of coffee.
This is Gillian Taggart, who, as well as being visually impaired, is a wheelchair user. Now, you might think that a shared space scheme with its flat curbs would be super accessible for people like Gillian, but she says that isn't the case.
Because I've lost the left side vision in both eyes, I can only look at one traffic direction. I can't do both at the same time, so I can't cross at the four-way junction at all. It's just too scary. I find it really terrifying at times, even with the side streets with the two sets of traffic lights, because people jump the lights and I've nearly been hit 4 times.
People who are in favour of shared spaces say that they are more aesthetically pleasing and that there are fewer accidents. Shouldn't we just accept that, they are generally better for the majority of people?
For the majority of people, but we have rights too. We are, not just visually impaired or blind people. There are many, many other disabled and elderly people who can no longer access their towns. I'm talking about people with dementia, for instance, who previously could press the button, listen for the bleeps or watch for the green man and access their town centre without any difficulty whatsoever.
I've got as much right as anybody else to be a part of my community and to go in there. I could do that, and the council has now stopped me from doing that, and that's just not fair.
How do you feel about that?
Angry. Absolutely angry, as if I don't exist, as if I'm invisible, as if I'm a second-class citizen. Just because I'm unfortunate enough to have lost my sight, why should I be excluded from my local community?
So what would you like the Scottish Government to do now?
I would like them to do exactly what they have done in England and call a halt to these stupid, crazy schemes that exclude hundreds, if not thousands of people from their towns. Stop this madness now.
How likely do you think it is in reality that they'll call a pause to this?
They must do it. We live in a democracy. We are being discriminated against, and this is against the law. So we want these schemes scrapped immediately. We want curbs back. We want control crossings back.
Sandy Taylor ending Tom Walker's report. Well, we did seek an interview with Transport Scotland. They turned us down, but in a statement they said, "We are looking again at national guidance in this area to consider changes that further support inclusive design and are collaborating with key groups, including organisations representing visually impaired people." East Dunbartonshire Council, which is where the Kirkintilloch scheme is, also didn't want to go on air, but they told us there are 2 controlled pedestrian crossing signals and, following consultation, another one will be created. Now, looking smart, and not just smart, but the way you want to look, can be a bit of a challenge for us. 2 problems, really. Buying the right clothes in the first place, and then being sure you're wearing a matching outfit when you are getting ready to face the world in the morning. The latest solution to matching comes from a master's student at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh. Anna Quinu has just designed some clothes aimed specifically at making patterns and colours more accessible to blind and partially sighted people. To make sure she was getting it right, she took the results of her new tactile tartan creations along to a research group of visually impaired people for their comments. We eavesdropped.
I've got all the clothes that I did with my collection. If you guys want to have a feel or have a feel,
Yep.
I'll just start passing them down. What I've done is created an accessible collection of clothing. It all has Philippa buttons on it for colour recognition and easy wear drawstrings. Philippa is a coding system which basically is colour recognition through shape.
Yeah, there's another button on the other end of the drawstring. There's 2. So one of them's the button for orange, and then the other one is a rectangle with 2 grooves, which I think means grey.
Right. So people can tell what colour the garments are by feeling at wooden button, which is a shape which will communicate the colour of the garment. So a rectangle is red, a triangle is yellow.
Now what colour would that be?
That one is navy, so it's the circle is blue, and then hopefully you'll be able to feel the 3 lines on it. And those mean it's dark.
Isn't that brilliant? I'm Sue Marshall. I'm a volunteer Braille teacher for RNIB here in Edinburgh, and I'm now totally blind, but I used to see a bit.
So how much do you care about the clothes you wear?
A lot. People who can see, you don't want them to think, well, there's that poor old blind soul, she can't look after herself. It's pretty basic, I think, really. Apart from the fact I like to look nice, so I suppose that goes for your pride. I'm fairly lucky in that I'm quite outgoing, so I can quite happily go into a shop, wave my white stick and say, come and help me, which they do, and I can always tell if something fits me or if it feels nice or if it hangs nicely. But colour's my big challenge because I used to see colours were very important to me. And I think I can still remember what they look like. I wouldn't want to go out with two things that looked horrendous together. I use little colour buttons which already exist, like a green for triangle. Yeah. You just sew them on. I also have little metal labels which have braille on them, like PPL for purple, but then you have to be able to use braille. And there's also colour detectors you can buy that you can put on clothes which will tell you what they are. And of course there are apps now as well. But you know, an app, you've got to have your phone with you, you've got to put it on, so your idea of buttons is much better, quite honestly.
Other things, like I created really big, large pockets. The jacket in particular can fit a folded up cane. All the pockets in the collection can fit a magnifier as well, you know, one of the digital magnifiers, as well as like an iPhone.
I love the pockets.
Do you like the pockets? Yeah.
Yeah, they're smashing. And I put my phone on. Mostly I like to have somebody come with me. I do a lot of online shopping too, and I listen to the description of things on the computer. That makes me a little more independent, because it can be difficult pinning my husband down to describe things to me. He's not a great one for going clothes shopping.
But with fashions changing so rapidly these days and the amount of choice now available on the market, this is only one very specific solution. The charity Look UK supports younger visually impaired people, and it's turned its attention to helping them feel confident about choosing the clothes that fit the image they want to portray. They recently ran an event in conjunction with John Lewis, using their stylists to give advice, and they intend to cast their net much wider than just one retailer. Ellen Williams, who ran the event, is herself in her early 20s.
I lost a lot of my sight when I was a teenager, and one of the things I found really challenging was that I couldn't judge my own appearance anymore. I just found it a really frustrating process, and sometimes shopping with sighted friends can be really isolating, you know, that you can go with a group and people will be, oh, look at this looks really nice, and you're kind of lagging at the back thinking, well, I don't really know what you're talking about. Like,
did it put you off going?
Yeah, it put me off going and put me off shopping for a really long time.
So who do you trust?
I've got a younger sister who's 2 years younger than me, and my mum, and a couple of trusted friends. They know me and they know the things I like to wear and the kind of things that I'm comfortable in. There have been times when I've been shopping with mum and sister, and their personal preferences are very different. So that's when I'm kind of piggy in the middle then, having to choose between, well, do I go with what mum says or do I go with what sister says? If I want to get something for work and look a bit more professional, I might go with mum's opinion, whereas if I want to get something for a party or something, I'll take my sister.
And what about when you actually want to know how it looks on you? Who do you trust then? And have you had any disasters?
I think what's most tricky is buying things online. Shopping in store is easier because you can get a feel for something and feel for the shape of it as well. You can try it on. Even when I'm buying online, I'll read the descriptions myself and then send it to someone for a second opinion before buying, and then it turns up and it's just nothing like what it said on the tin, you know. So I've had a fair few disasters like that.
So on the whole issue of how retailers can help, first of all, tell me a bit more about the John Lewis event.
We had a team of their personal stylists giving a workshop to about 15-16 young people on current trends and the different kind of things that are in at the moment. Like, I never knew that it was very in at the minute to tuck your t-shirt into your jeans or into your skirt or whatever.
Really? I've only just started to untuck mine, thinking that was the fashionable thing to do.
Things change so often, you're always kind of playing catch up, I think.
Right, so I was being fashionable by accident.
They gave us an overview of their personal styling service, and a couple of other high street shops do this as well. Personal styling service involves having them really pick things out for you and really give you professional advice on what colours would suit you, what different cuts would suit your body shape, would be the most flattering, things that you need to know, but your friends and your family might not have the expertise to be able to tell you why this certain jacket looks good on you.
Have you used personal shopper service yourself?
I did a few years ago, so I actually used Debenhams to get a prom dress, and I found it really helpful. The appointment was completely free and there was no obligation to buy anything either. Having someone there that was really impartial and that you can trust in that way, she gave me some advice about what kind of styles would suit me that I still remember now.
On the issue of colours, you can distinguish light from dark.
Yeah.
And I think you were able to see. I just wonder what information you need about colours that which would actually be of use to you to make a decision for yourself.
I have some visual memory of some like basic colours, but if it gets any more complicated than red, blue, green, then I'm a bit lost. So I remember that I didn't really like yellow. So I'll always steer away from anything yellow. It can be quite complicated because when I had that level of vision to be able to see colour, it was very bad to clash. So for me, things like pink and red are a big no-no, whereas now apparently it's really in fashion to wear pink and red.
And this is where it's so difficult, isn't it? Because things change so quickly now.
Exactly.
So you have to have advice kind of all the time, really.
Yeah, and sometimes it feels really uncomfortable, you know, to go against something that you've always kind of taken for granted.
And I wondered if you got any surprises from visually impaired people themselves, the things they do, the techniques they use, the way they decide things.
I mean, I've had it when people have asked, why do you bother, why do you care so much about clothes and beauty and stuff like that if you can't see it, you know, you can't see yourself, what's the point? And the fact that we had so many young people come and they were so enthused and eager to learn, I think it just emphasised to us how important it is to give young visually impaired people access to that kind of information. When you're VI, you can't just kind of look in a mirror and have that visual confirmation and validate yourself like, oh yeah, okay, I look all right today, that's cool. You have to use other people as your mirrors. You have to get that actual verbal feedback from someone that you look presentable.
Once you've actually got the clothes you need in your wardrobe, what about the whole business of the method you use to match them up in the morning, to make sure that you've got the right thing that goes with something else? You know, what's your method of doing that?
I remember a lot of things by their touch, so I kind of organise my wardrobe in terms of different categories, and sometimes I'll have like complete outfits on the same hanger so that I remember that this top goes with these trousers, so I'll put them on the same hanger, and I'll organise so that on the far left there's summery stuff, in the middle there's work stuff, in the far back there's more kind of goey outy things. So that's how I do it. Someone was saying that they use drawers for everything, so they've got drawer for t-shirts, drawer for shorts, drawer for socks, drawer. Everyone's got their own methods, and as long as it works for you, then you know that's fine.
More recently, there have been a number of apps where on a smartphone where you can actually get someone to check it for you. Do you use those?
Yeah, sometimes when I'll get two things of the same colour, or just, you know, in a rush in the morning, I don't remember which is which, then I use Seeing AI quite a bit. It's got a colour detector on there, so all you have to do is hold that up to something and it'll give you a colour. And
then, of course, there are other apps, aren't there, which basically involve real people in real time.
Yeah. My favourite is called Be Specular, and that's one that you can take a picture of something and send it to someone with a question. So I've used this a couple of times to get feedback about my makeup. So I'm in the rush in the morning, so I try and take a quick snap of my face. So I do that, and then I send it off to one of the sighted volunteers and ask, have I got any mascara on my nose? And usually it'll come back saying, no, it's fine, have a nice day, blah, blah, blah.
Ellen Williams, do share your own tips for choosing and matching clothes. And that's it for today. From me, Peter White, producer Sarah Luthwaite, and the team, goodbye.